Welcome back to the DJ Sessions, where we feature the best DJs and producers from around the world. I'm your host, Darren, and right now I'm sitting in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and coming in halfway around the world. We just like working with people from all over the world. We have Cuebrick coming in from Mannheim, Germany today. Hi, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. We have really sunny weather right now in Germany, I'm living in southern Germany, and right now the temperatures are going up. I think we had around about 22 degrees or something like that today, Celsius. Yeah. And,
I have to calculate that into Fahrenheit.
I think so, right? You do everything in Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit, yeah.
And we have Celsius. I have no clue how much it is in Fahrenheit, but it's more.
It's more.
In Fahrenheit, it's higher. It's a higher number.
Well, I do know that 0 is freezing.
Yeah.
So that's equal to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. I know that.
Yeah.
I should know this math equation in my head. I'm really good with numbers and math, but that's awesome. Summertime is coming back. Things are warming up. You're in your studio right now. That looks really awesome. I want to ask you, what's in those little, obviously that's some audio dampening stuff, but what's inside those little boxes back there?
That's funny. I have the artworks of all my singles.
Oh, okay.
Printed in little squares and then put it in there.
That is awesome. That's a first.
Yeah, and since the start, I think, since I started releasing on labels. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll talk about that a little bit about that in a few moments, but obviously we want to get our DJ Sessions fans knowing more about you. And the first question I come up with is can you tell us a little bit about your artist name, where it comes from? I know you probably get that a lot or have gotten that a lot, but what's the behind Cuebrick?
It's a kind of a wordplay. I'm a big fan of Stanley Kubrick, the filmmaker, and this is kind of a wordplay with his last name. So queuing is something from DJing. So everybody who DJs know what's queue is, and Cuebrick is like Kubrick. It's like this because at the end you're in a club or in a festival, you are pretty much doing the same as a filmmaker does with films. You does this with your audience, and you are like the director of the night. And I thought that would be a funny wordplay to do.
He's one of my top favorite directors of all time. #1 movie in my book, hands down, A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
I have a huge poster that I got from a garage sale years ago, probably, maybe 16 years ago. I was driving by a garage sale. I saw this huge poster. I'm talking huge, like 5 foot high poster, 6 foot high poster of Clockwork Orange. And the girl I was with, I said, pull over the car. And I ran over to this garage sale, and I got up to the poster, and I noticed they wanted like $65 for it. It was all framed, kind of nice, everything.
Oh, really?
But what I noticed, though, it was an original movie release poster from back in the day, and it was in French. And it literally is like the centerpiece of my house. Like I would show you if it was hanging up the wall. I got to get reframed, but it's like been the centerpiece of wherever I've lived, anywhere I go, is this Stanley Kubrick's Clockwork Orange, but it's in French. It's so awesome.
That's crazy. You perhaps you have to send me a picture later.
I will definitely do that. Definitely here when I get it back up. I'll be moving soon, so I'll be getting it framed and putting it up. But we'll be in contact over the years, so not to worry about that. But that's really awesome. Kubrick is great. Do you have a favorite movie of his that you absolutely cherish?
Same as you. Clockwork
Orange.
That's awesome. Yeah,
I think that to me is a movie that just stands for so much about how there is control, how the government wants to control, and he kind of goes into that to get rid of his crimes. I'm not going to spoiler it for those who haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, go see it. But how he breaks free of that, and how there's a lot of parallels to that could be in the music industry, of where people want to control the artist, and the artist might have to succumb to that control until they can finally get enough clout to kind of break free from the system and be cured, in a sense.
Yeah, that's most of the most difficult things, I think, for an artist is to get the music released you want to have released, and not the kind of music your label wants you to release. That's a really, really big problem, because you always, as an artist, you always try to find your own way and your own style and your own, kind of your own music. And often with labels, you come to a point as a smaller artist where they say, oh yeah, make it a little bit sound more like, you know what I mean? And that's a problem. That's a really, really big problem. Yeah.
And you've had releases on Spinnin Records, Maxximize, Smash the House, Revealed Recordings, Enhanced Recordings, Ultra Music, Mixmash, and Armada. Wow, there's a mouthful right there. And one of your latest releases, Myself, a collaboration you did with Toby Dean, just came out. What's the biggest inspiration for you making your tracks? When you go in, is there an individual inspiration for each track, or is there overall inspiration that you look for?
Yeah, sometimes it starts with an idea of a drop, or just a sound I find, or just some kind of inspiration. But mostly, as 80% or 90% of my tracks are with vocals. I get a vocal, or I work on a vocal with singer-songwriters, and then inspiration comes from that kind of vocal. Because when you hear a vocal, I just had it like 10 minutes ago in the studio, where I was trying to find. I had a vocal which is really beautiful, really, but I want to get it in another mood. You know what I mean? A little bit darker, a little bit more emotional, and that kind of stuff, and a lot of ideas come from that, working with vocals and write other chords under the vocal to get the mood different, and then you come up with a drop idea and that kind of stuff. So I'm highly inspired by vocals when I hear them.
Awesome. And so we got Myself, and then coming right out behind that was, I believe, Little Darling with Uplink. Is it Maxximize?
And Maxxis, it's
Maxxis.
A German singer-songwriter, which is featured on television here. So he's making a good way right now, and he came up to me and my friends Uplink, and then we produced this track, and it came out on Maxximize Recordings, the label of Blasterjaxx.
And then I was going through your list. I always, like, when I'm doing research, I always listen to the artist's songs before when I'm researching. I'll tell you, Cry for You actually was like shivers of me, like,
thanks
it just was awesome. I'm like shaking. It was so amazing, and love that track. Is there anything else you're working on or coming out, like anything coming up you can talk about? Because sometimes you can't talk about it until it comes out, so I don't want to get in trouble.
That's a big problem. I got you. But the next one coming up I can talk about is a cover from Four Strings, Take Me Away, which will be out on Maxximize Recordings too. And it will be out the end of March, I think, which is really, really big, roomy, aggressive kind of festival track. So, because I think this whole Take Me Away theme is perfect for festivals, and I try to build a really massive drop around it. It's still melodic, but it's massive, and I think gets the crowd moving.
We were talking a little bit before. Take Me Away. Is that the one? Take Me Away. Hey, na 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 na. Take Me Away. Oh yeah, I definitely know that track. Oh, I can't wait to hear that. That's gonna be awesome.
It was really funny because I sent it to Blasterjaxx, and they loved it and said, "Yeah, we want to release it. Can you clear it?" And then I said to them, "Sure, I can try, but isn't that something you want to try? Perhaps you have the better chance to clear the track." And they said, "Yeah, let me check with the team." And then they came back because Maxximize Recordings is part of Spinnin Records. So, and then they came back to me and said, "Yeah, it's all right, already lying there. It's a Spinnin Records. It's with Spinnin Records, the original. So no problem." And then we got the clearing really, really fast for that one.
Yeah, we actually over here at the DJ sessions have toyed around with the idea for years, and probably will start this in 2023. We're looking at probably early 2023 to start our own label. and some of our resident DJs are producers, but then also getting those track submissions, getting everything cleared. That's going to be a huge endeavor, a huge undertaking, but we're super excited to kind of join the ranks of that, of distribution. And that's going to be a whole new chapter and ball game for me going through that process, but we're super excited to be working with that. We have some pretty cool people we're working with in the industry to help us guide us through that process.
Awesome.
So that's going to be pretty awesome.
It's always good to have your own label and work professionally on it, because then you don't have the problem that somebody says to you, oh no, we will not release it. It has to sound a little bit more like this, or just so you can really focus on what you want to release. That's why most of the artists have their own labels.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking with a friend of mine who is very adamant online. He's more in the hip hop realm of a music producer, but he'll basically tell a lot of people and say it online. It sounds like he's coming off aggressive or angry, but he's really saying it as a warning to people that if you don't own your stuff, you don't register your stuff, you can go get a company, go make a label, go get a website, go get your domain name, set everything up and have your own stuff, and then start submitting it to the right places and have complete control of kind of what you're doing, rather than just sending off your stuff to a million different places and then having no control, no payback, no nothing, and it's very awesome. I've just looked at him over the last couple of years of taking advice from him. I'm saying, okay. We do that with the DJ Sessions brand as well. I see a lot of people in the live streaming world, they'll go and they'll rely on something like YouTube, or, they'll rely on one platform to distribute their information. Well, if that platform says we're done or we're gone, your brand is gone,
Yeah. And that's a big problem. And those companies have a lot of force.
Yeah, exactly. So
on your band or kind of that.
How many tracks do you end up producing a month on average, and how many end up being released on average?
That's a really good question, because I ghost produce some other artists too. So I think around about one track a week, but for me, I think one track a month, or 1.5 track a month. That's something for me. And then I work for other artists. Sometimes I can finish 6 or 8 tracks in 1 month, but it depends on how many time I have. It depends on, I also produce like a techno DJ, which I think if you have more underground music, it's a little bit faster to produce, because you don't have to process vocals. You don't have to work with singer-songwriters, that kind of stuff. It little bit depends on the styles you do then, but basically I think something around 4 to 8 tracks a month.
And from what I see, it's about every 6 weeks that artists are generally releasing something new to stay relative. Is that kind of a time frame that would fit within that 6 to 8 weeks? There's always something new coming out.
Last year I had it, I think, every 4 weeks, and this year something like that too. It always depends on the labels you work with. When do they have their free time slots? When are they able to release it? Because they're not only releasing you, they are releasing other artists too. So you have to find a slot, and then it has to find your schedule. And and you always, if you're signing a label contract, you always have some time you were not able to release a new track. So for example, if I sign a track to Maxximize or to Spinnin, then they will say, oh, okay, Ruven, you have to take, for example, 4 weeks. In this 4 weeks, you're not allowed to release another track, and after that, you're allowed to release a new one.
That makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. What's the longest time you ever spent consecutively working in the studio on a track?
On one track? That's a good question. I had some tracks I worked on and then put them away because I was at a point where I had this lack of creativity. I don't know, okay, which direction should I choose now? And then sometimes it's better to let them go, take a new project, work on that new project, and then that refreshes your mind and your ideas and your creativity, and then you come back to that project you dropped. And sometimes it's half a year or something like that. I just let them lay there for 3 months or 4 months, and then take them out and work on it. I had tracks, I think, working on it for half a year, something like that. Yeah.
It's kind of like music production is synonymous with a lot of behind the scenes work. People don't necessarily see you in the studio. And I can relate to that doing a live streaming show. People think that I just set up a camera and hit record and here we go. And that's all there is. Yeah. It's so easy to do because I can talk to a camera and I can find people to talk. No, that's not how easy it is to do. And there are things or projects that I work on. I can relate to that where I will have something, I get so frustrated with it. And then I'll just walk away from it for like 2 weeks. We'll do a bunch of other stuff, come sit down. 30 seconds later, I'm like, oh, that's all it was. And boom. Yeah. And the floodgates open for that project. So I kind of understand and relate to that. In the creative process of things or what goes on in the background. So here's a question. What's the most important thing that record labels should do for their artists? And are they, on the whole, doing a good job with that?
I think the most thing artist wants from a record label is promotion. Mm-hmm. So use all their socials, use all their power to get you into Spotify playlists or Apple Music playlists or whatever. And use their whole marketing machinery. I think that's a really important question. And then help you to connect to other artists. So if you have a label and you sign to that label, I think one of the biggest or best things that label can do for you is to let you do collaborations with that other maybe bigger artists releasing on that label.
Collaborations is definitely, I think, key, and that's one of the things that the DJ sessions is that we've always maintained an open door, or what I like to call an open table policy. And while we can't go out and release and take everyone's tracks on when we become a label, we still want to keep that open door kind of policy and produce on a multiple different level of genres, probably going a little bit more towards house because that's my favorite genre. But I mean, there's trance and techno and D&B and all the other ones that are a lot of fun as well. I just feel I have a little teeny bit more knowledge about house than the other genres, but I'll probably have to hire somebody to come on and do all that stuff for me. It's more of an expert in those fields of I don't know, is it A&R or that's artist development, or I didn't forget all the terms. See, I'm going to be new to all this stuff. I'm a video guy. I'm an executive producer, right? But I still should know aspect of the business.
A&R is normally the guy who you send your music to, and he says if he likes it or not.
Yes. So I'll probably have to hire somebody to be in charge of A&R for each of the different genres, to be the gatekeeper. But we still want to work and encourage young artists and up and coming artists. That's really what we like focusing on a lot here over at the DJ sessions, because you never know. I mean, I was with the likes of having Sander Van Doorn on my couch back in like 2009 or maybe 2008 or maybe it was 7. The episode's up online somewhere, but right before he went from to awesome. And it's just awesome seeing that kind of growth with artists and watching them grow over time. Speaking of companies like Apple and Spotify and one of the bigger ones out there, Beatport, I guess Beatport now kind of has some serious competitors. Do you feel there's a competition or a shift with Beatport not being kind of the number one place to go to and hold that monopoly, or do you feel they still have a monopoly on the game?
Oh, that's a really good question, because there were always a competitor with Beatport. Since they are in the market, I think there was Traxsource and there was a lot of other bigger track selling platforms for DJ related stuff. But I think they are still number one. And if for me, if I look at selling tracks or chart wise stuff, I always look in Beatport.
Yeah. And I wonder, my question follow up to this one would be, have you looked at, or are you interested, or is it, there's three, I guess, answers.
Mm-hmm.
Interested, haven't looked at it, interested, not interested, to the world of NFTs.
Mm-hmm. I looked at it. and I'm really interested in it. Yeah.
It seems that might be a way with Web 3.0 that might be a way that artists can take a little bit back into their hands, into their control. They can then say, I have my own website, I have my brand. I might release to labels and stuff, but some of these tracks I'm going to release as NFT versions.
Yeah.
And then get basically more kickback, more money in a sense off of that, off of every sale that moves forward to that, if it sells forward. But if you get your first round, okay, great. But if it goes a second, a tertiary, or 4, 5, 6 down the line, that song's passed around, you're still getting a residual income off of that. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes up against Beatport, or are they going to start offering NFT versions of songs?
That could be a thing. That they will be like the open sea for music.
Yeah,
that could be something if they see it as a thing. But that whole streaming market already gave a little bit the power back to the artist, because it's never been so easy to get your own label run. And you can, here in Germany, I think it's the same in the US, you can found your label for 20 euros or $20 or whatever. And then they will, you have some provider, and he will upload to all the platforms, to Spotify, to Apple Music, to Beatport. And it's 20 euros or $20, and you get back everything you earn. The thing with labels back in the days was 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 20 years ago, you got signed there, and then they had to take money to do a CD or to do a vinyl or to whatever, to do radio promotion. And that kind of stuff is not necessary anymore. And it got a little bit, and also radio promotion and that kind of stuff is way cheaper than it was back in the days. So that's where the only thing big labels can give you is that kind of marketing power they have, because they have the bigger teams, they have the direct access to the creators of playlists, they have and they have money to just say, oh, okay, this track is, the numbers are going up, now we take 100,000 euros and spend it into marketing. So, and this is artists normally don't have that kind, unless he's a superstar, but don't have that kind of money to just put in one track and say, yeah, let's try it out. And that's a little bit, or that's basically what big labels do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And speaking of radio shows, you mentioned promotions and radio shows. You work with the Big FM's Nitro X show.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that for? And tell us a little bit about that show.
Yeah, it's the Big FM is a German youth station, so for a little bit younger people, I think 15 till 40 years old, something like that. And one day they came up to me and say, hey, you are a DJ and you're from our area here, and we want to do a new program in Big FM which is representing electronic dance music. And then they came up to me and asked me if I could host it, and that's what I do for, I think, 4 or 6 years now. And it's a really, really big station for Germany. We air like half of Germany, something like that. And this is really big in Germany, because in Germany that's pretty funny, because it's not that funny, but it's the information itself is we were no radio station in Germany is allowed to air whole Germany because of World War II.
Oh, really?
Really, yeah. That was a law which was made after World War II, when the Allies came, and Americans, the Allies, everybody came, and then they said, "Oh no, we cannot give the Germans a radio station to air the whole country, because then they can organize themselves more easy and do World War III or whatever."
So they basically, it sounds like they cap the transmitters at a certain range.
And that's the difference to, for example, UK. BBC is airing the whole UK. Oh, I think it's. Let me check.
No, I got you.
Yeah, my screen just went off.
That's okay. Can you still hear me? You all good? Our radio broadcast didn't go out. So let me ask you this: Does Big FM, do they transmit? Are they allowed to distribute online? Do they have a streaming platform you can listen to it around the world?
Yeah, they are allowed to do it online, and online is allowed to do the whole German thing. And we have the normal, I don't know what it's called, FM, what you get in your car. Is there a word for it? What is it called?
FM.
FM, yeah, then that's the word. And there we air like half of Germany plus Berlin.
Awesome. And then in addition to that show, you also do the conference radio show.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that for, and what made you want to start that show up?
It's my bi-monthly DJ mix, and there I want to show new tracks I like, new tracks from me, some unreleased stuff, and that goes into a worldwide distribution, and I think it's aired with like a little bit over 100 stations worldwide.
Nice. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Now, we have a special exclusive mix from you for the DJ sessions. What made you decide to do it on a boat? Where was it done on the boat? And whose boat was that?
It was on the Bodensee, which is the Lake Constance in English, and it's on the if you go to the bottom of southern Germany, where the Alps start, so the big mountains. There's a really big lake, and that's the Lake Constance, and there we did it. And we chartered the boat for that. Yeah. But the funny thing is that on that day, the Lake Constance is famous for switching the weather really fast. So you need a special license to drive on that lake. You can drive in the sea, you can drive in Italy, you can drive in Holland, you can drive everywhere in the world, but not on the Lake Constance if you don't have this special license. And we always made fun of that, because for what? And then we had that day, we chartered the boat, and the weather was switching so fast. We were in the middle of that lake, and it was like thunder and everything came up in a few minutes. And as we entered the harbor, the sea was already gone completely wild and everything. Yeah.
Oh wow! I watched it a little bit, and I was watching. The one thing I loved about it is you started kind of in the daytime. It was a beautiful day, and then it started to go to dusk and nighttime as you pulled in. Yeah. I'm gonna go back and look at the water and see what was going on. Yeah. You had a drone on that too, didn't you? Yeah. That looked really awesome. Thank you so much. We're gonna get that out there and get that in rotation. We'll be talking about where we're going to put that in rotation in just a little bit, but share one track with us that you currently play and describe in detail why it is such a great production, why you choose to play that track.
Oh, that's a really good question. that's a really good question. I like the newest Alesso, but I have to check the name because I'm really bad when it comes to names. But the newest Alesso release, let me check. I love it because it's a little bit back to its roots. To his roots. I'm a big Alesso fan, and yeah, Only You is the name. And I'm a really, really big Alesso fan, and I love that he brings back that old school progressive house vibes. Yeah, and this is a really, really great track. I love progressive house, and yeah, and the new Martin Garrix and Z. This also too.
Do you know while you were scanning for that track, I was scanning your set on the back of the boat. Did you bring a fireball machine on the back of the boat?
Yeah.
I just saw that. Sorry, I didn't mean to change the subject, but I was like letting you look up stuff, and I was going to look up stuff, and I go, is there a fire on the boat?
Normally grill our marshmallows.
That's awesome. But back to the Martin Garrix. It was a Martin Garrix set, Martin Garrix track, and then the Alesso.
The Alesso, Only You, and the Martin Garrix and Z collab, the newest one. Martin Garrix and Z Follow. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. And who is your favorite DJ? And can you tell us why?
Oh, that's a good question. I think if I have to choose one, perhaps Axwell.
Axwell,
yeah, because I really like how he evolved over the time, and he was one of the first guys ever which I bought my own vinyls from. So Axwell is really somebody who I follow from, yeah, as a smaller DJ to what he's now today.
Yeah, he's been around for a while, since '95.
Yeah, and Swedish House Mafia is coming back, so
I actually have tickets to their show here in Seattle.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's we're really excited. We have we rented a very awesome suite to go see that show. We got awesome seats, and then apparently I just found out the other day we get to go to the owners club for the stadium and like hang out back there after the show, which is where the artists usually come back and hang out after the shows. Hopefully that'll happen, that show. But super excited for Swedish House Mafia.
And then you take some stories with Swedish House Mafia.
Yeah, totally.
And get the collab going.
Absolutely. And speaking about being backstage and hanging out, who's the most inspiring person that you've ever met backstage? And tell us why that person was an inspiration to you.
Whoa. That's a good question too. Now I have to think. I had the most funny backstage thing I had with Lost Frequencies, but not as a DJ, as I was there for Big FM, and I did an interview with him for the show. And then he asked me, "Hey, Ruben, what will you do now? What's your plans for tonight?" And then I told him, "Yeah, we will just go around, have some drinks, kind of that stuff." And then I had two other guys with me. He said, "Wait a minute." He opened his fridge in the backstage and gave us like every single bottle of hard booze he had. We had gin, we had champagne, we had vodka, we had everything. And he said, "Yeah, take this, take this, take this, take this, take this. Have a good night."
That was all stuff probably off his rider for his green room and his rider. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, there's an inspirational story. To go party, go have fun.
Go party.
Speaking of Big FM and going to do shows, do you go to any of the larger music conferences, festivals? Are you still actively doing that?
As a German producer, you always attend ADE in Amsterdam normally, because that's not far away from us, and it's in Europe the most I think the most important one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and there I normally attend, but we I think it didn't take place the last 2 years because of Corona. But yeah,
I have already procured my Airbnb 2 blocks away from the main event area. We are super excited to be going this year.
And we have to have drinks this year.
Absolutely. I think one of the things what we're going to do is we're looking to get in with the event, possibly have a booth at the event. I'm not sure how ADE set up. They haven't got back to us yet. We're still waiting on our press clearance because that hasn't even opened up yet. I think they opened up in July, but I'm super excited to put that stamp in my passport and finally make it over to ADE. And awesome. I think one of the things we're going to do is our plan is probably set up at our Airbnb, our studio, and then just invite everyone to come by and book interviews and guest mixes and do everything from our studio. And then we'll have that whole bar. We can hand bottles to people out and say, go party, and have a nice spread of food.
I heard it. Do it like Lost Frequencies.
Yeah. Here you go. Here's a bottle. Maybe we'll figure out a way we can get some bottles and put our DJ Sessions logo on them as complimentary bottles saying, this is our DJ Sessions vodka. Or rum, take this and go party with it, something fun. But we're super excited. My crew and I are coming over to be a part of that event this year.
We are hosting a bigger boat party there. Perhaps that's something you can join us there too.
We'd love to. Absolutely. We can talk off camera about that and get the details down. But we are dedicated and super excited for ADE this year. So I'm glad we were able to touch base.
You will like it. You're like, and Amsterdam is one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been.
That's
sometimes during ADE the weather is not that kind of good, but if you have good weather, it's such a beautiful city. I love Amsterdam.
Yeah, I can't wait. I have been spending so much time on doing what I do in the States and my brand and locally that I haven't got those passport stamps in yet. But this year I've been committed to traveling a lot more, getting out. We're also looking at possibly Sonar in Barcelona. I think there was one. Is it IDEX? Maybe.
I think so. There's something. Yeah.
Maybe that's one of it's over there. I'm new to the festival circuit tour, but I've known 80. My first thing I ever did when we went traveling to a conference like that was Winter Music Conference back in 2009, and being part of kind of the press circuit there, where I kind of got in with a number of DJs and promoters and PR people. It was just nice being on the ground. And so that's another thing we're excited to just be on the ground again, networking and talking to people. That's going to be something that's really awesome. And speaking of business and business decisions, what's been the best business decision in favor of your artist career that you've ever made?
Yeah, there are a few because success at the end is a sum up of a lot of good decisions you did, and well, that's a good question. I think to do your own thing, and I had a lot of times I had people saying, "Oh, you have to change that more, that sound. You have to change your sound more." And so I always did what I thought it was right, and I think that was always a good decision.
Going back a little bit, I know we were talking about music production earlier, and I forgot to ask you. You're in your home studio right now, correct? Obviously. And I see that there's a 6-string and an electric guitar. Mm-hmm. And a little curious about your studio setup. And do you also play acoustic? Do you also play other instruments other than?
No, they are only they are really cheap guitars. They're really cheap. I think the one is 30 euros, which is almost like $30. And this one is like, I think 80 or 100. It's not good guitars, and we have it here just for if a singer-songwriter comes up, then we can jam a little bit and get in the mood and it looks nice on pictures.
Awesome. And are you more of a hardware producer or software producer?
Software
producer.
Software. Yeah. And I cannot play piano. I'm only able to draw notes.
That's about the talent I have if I was to try to make something. But I dabbled a little bit in music production, just a small little smidge of my life for a hot second. My brothers were in a band growing up, and they were into punk rock music. And my father got them a lot of studio gear, And I was about 8 years old when I was reading what MIDI was. And I was just having a conversation with somebody. I was 8 years old reading this manual on a piece of Yamaha gear that was translated from like Japanese to English, reading about MIDI gear. And my brothers were more like, let's just plug and play and move these buttons around and see what happens kind of guys. And I'd be in there going, nope, if you adjust this parameter like this and turn the gate like this and put the reverb, like, see that sound it can make? And they're like, what are you doing? They like punch me and say, get out of my room. Don't mess with this gear. But I was always technical with, I like the hands-on approach with hardware. And it wasn't until years later till the software became a lot more prominent. And you can start doing a lot more in literally a laptop if you really put it down to it.
And now you have every hardware synth as a software. So unless you don't have a 500 square meter studio, I think it don't make sense nowadays to have a lot of hardware equipment, because it's just a question of space and room, and you have everything in your computer you want.
Absolutely.
And it's more important to have a really, really fast computer.
Yeah, almost like a gaming computer.
Yeah, my here, I think I have 32 cores.
Nice. Are you an Apple or PC guy?
PC.
PC.
If it comes to work, I work on MacBooks, Tier 1. But this is only I do my emailing and kind of stuff with that, and use them private. But if it comes to producing, I prefer Windows, because the money you pay for the hardware, it's so much cheaper. So you get a so much better PC for less the money, and and then for me it's better to work on Windows. And I'm not sure if you can use Cubase on Mac. I think you're not able to. I think you have to use Logic, or you have to do this. You can install Windows on your Mac, but then it's complicated, and
I don't know if you can still. I haven't attempted it, but with the new M1 chips, the new chips, the Intel chips, you could do boot camp and shut down and start up in Windows, and that was okay. But I don't know if the new M1 chips, they don't allow for a boot camp environment anymore.
I think you're not able to do it anymore.
So it's kind of like, there goes my whole gaming system out of the window. I've been a Mac guy for 22 years now. So, but I do a lot of video editing. So Final Cut Pro.
There's nothing better for video editing than Mac.
Yeah.
But it always depends on what you use, and if you use it for music. I have a lot of colleagues who produce on Mac, and they are just not strong enough for it. I haven't produced on an M2 now, or on an M1. I don't know. It could be that they are better, but 1 year ago, 2 years ago, there was no chance you ever could get the performance you have out of a Windows PC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right now doing this interview on 2000. When did I get this one? It had to be 2021. I think last year, and it was the first gen of the M1s, and I love it. I have a 2019 MacBook Pro, and the M1 just smokes it. I'm just like, so
I love it, especially for mobility. You have so much more battery.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
right. You can use it 20 hours or something like that. So
Yeah. And so when it comes to promoting yourself, because we were talking a little bit about that the labels, one of the label things that their job should be promoting stuff. When it comes to promoting yourself and your releases and your career, your DJing and events, is solid PR an important asset for DJs to have?
Can you?
So do you have somebody? Do you handle all your public relations, or do you think that's something that DJs should have or shouldn't have?
I do, but a lot of this does my management for me, and they handle a lot of PR stuff. I think it depends on the size of the artist, because if you are a bigger artist, then you have more money to spend because you earn more money, and then you can spend $2,000 a month in a PR company. But if you are starting to make music and you have your first releases going on, and a release or a gig gives you $800 or $600, I think it's not a good. I don't know if it's good spending to spend $3,000 in a PR company. So it's like sometimes you have to see an artist as a real company, like a normal, like a, I don't know, a car shop, or like some producing business. And if your company goes bigger, then you can do your commercials and all that marketing and all that. Your budgets are higher. Yeah, and if you are smaller, then you have to really look what you spend money with, and what you can do on yourself to save the money. And yeah, and I think a little bit depends on the level of the artist.
I couldn't agree more. It was very interesting watching the rise of the last couple of years, where we were doing a show for 13 years. And then when everything hit, I watched everyone jump online going, oh, it's easy to do. And they called me up for a lot of advice, or what to do. How do I get around this? How do I do this? What kind of cameras to use? And I was freely giving the information away, because I'd love to, I stopped saying, to people, oh, we're a live feature. We're a featured DJ show on Twitch. And most people would say, who would want to watch a DJ show online? And the next follow-up was like, they'd say, okay, well, what's Twitch? And I'd have to explain to them, well, YouTube's owned by Google. Twitch is owned by Amazon. And they go, oh, it must be pretty big. Now everyone knows what it's all about, and it's all going good. But they're still not breaking that threshold of understanding marketing and promotions. And they're using their socials to do it, but not understanding how the algorithms of the socials hold them down. They're not having any PR or anyone reach out or have anyone do a story on them. So they're stuck. They're still stuck at like 10, 15, 20, 30 viewers every time they go live. And they're not crossing that threshold because either A, they don't know how to spend the money to do it, or B, they don't know that that's what it's going to take to get into the next threshold. So people wonder why we hit, 800 or 1,000 viewers per show. We blow up, and, we're getting articles and everything written. It's because I have a team out of the UK. I got a guy out of New York. I got a guy out of Thailand. I have a team in Seattle, and I'm out here pounding away on the keyboards and doing what I'm doing, to kind of make that all happen. And yeah, my budget went from when it was just me doing it, where it was kind of $0 being spent on it, to now, as explained to my team just recently, a few months back, I was spending upwards of $1,800 to $2,500 a month. And that's just them. That's just them doing that part of the job. That's still without me getting a paycheck. That's money that we use to come in. And where does that money need to funnel if I want to get to that next level? So, I see PR, like you said, don't do it right away, but network until you can't get any further.
Yeah. And
network talking to PR people. So when you are ready to spend that money, you might know who to talk to, what their rates are. And they might say, hey, I can write you a press release, or I can get you maybe in front of this magazine, or I can get you an article here, and be ready to go. And especially brand yourself. It's back in the day. It goes back to when I used to do videos for bands, and I would say, oh, okay, what's your website? They go, we don't have a website. Okay, what do you have online? Well, we have a MySpace page. And I'm like, oh, okay. Cool. Maybe you might want to look into getting a website, but a lot of times artists don't. That's the business side of things. And even creating a website, while it's an artistic process, it's a business endeavor where you're working with, you got artists talking to tech, and sometimes those worlds don't mesh too well, and even the business world meshing with artistry. And then there's always, you got to be careful. Am I getting the value of what I'm paying for? I could dump $20,000 into something and find out I could have got it for $2,000. So, but I'm a very big advocate of PR. And I think your advice there was correct on start small, build those contacts, build what you can, and that just takes time.
It's the same with top liners and with singer-songwriters, and that the best ones are charging a lot of money. And when I started to work with singer-songwriters, I tried to find my own in the area I'm around and search, okay, perhaps this one can come for $100 of bus ticket, or this one can come for $150, whatever. And if you're getting bigger, then you can spend $3,000 on a good top line. But everything has to be in the right I don't know the word for it, but income and outcome should be equal, not equal. It should be more income than outcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, and, it just takes time, and this is entertainment. I see it. I remember as a kid growing up seeing one of the top 3 most stressful professions to go after in the world, and it was entertainment, sports, and a sales job. To be big in sales, because it's just stress. You got to make those numbers and trying to get through there and get to the top. It was very interesting, but I just remember seeing entertainment, like what are the chances of you becoming a superstar entertainer? And I often tell people a lot of times they hit that glass ceiling. And why are they hitting that glass ceiling? Well, they're stuck in their local market. They don't want to spend any money on themselves to develop their brand. And I say, look, if you got a kid who's a no name, who spent, $300 on a website, has all their socials locked down, is releasing tracks, and you're over here releasing tracks, but you're just putting them on, SoundCloud or something. And this kid has a social following. And I always tell people, get your socials up, and they have a social following. If even if they had 5,000 people on their Instagram and you got 200 people on your Instagram, who looks like the bigger selling commodity? Who am I going to bring on board? That's a business decision. Who's been promoting? Who's been investing in your business?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
100%.
Kind of one of the things you got to do. Now, switching to some fun stuff. After all that, I see you're a snowboarder. And a few months ago, you were in Austria. Yeah. And I was curious as to how did you get that beer up to the top of the mountain?
Is it you have a lot of cabins there, or restaurants on the mountain where they sell in Austria a lot of alcohol. And we just took the beer and went like 30 meters across the hill. It was like 30 meters from the restaurant, but the picture is funny because it looks like it's complete in the wild. Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, what do they bring, a 6-pack and mugs up to the top and just kick up? We're going to chill on a Sunday, do a picnic up here. I didn't know. And what is your beer of choice? What do you prefer to drink?
Wow, that's a good question too, because I had a friend of mine has a beer restaurant which is specialized from beer all over the world, and the Germans always think that they are great in beer because we have a lot of beer, we have a lot of beer commercials, we have a lot of beer sponsoring, and beer is fucking cheap. It's so fucking cheap. It's like you pay for 24 bottles. It's like a box here, 24 bottles, 0.5. It starts from €5, which is pretty much $5, $6, 24 bottles. So it's almost the same price than water. So in the opinion of Germans, they are really good in beer, and I think they are good in beer. Yeah. But then he explained to me why most of the German beer is tasting a little bit the same. So you have Pils, you have Weizen, you have some kind of, but if you take a Pils from that company and a Pils from that company, and I make you don't see anything, you will not taste the difference. Know what I mean? And then he explained to me, that's why the Germans only use two sorts of hops. So, and then he explained to me, because in a German opinion, Americans only can do waterish beer, like you know what I mean?
Budweiser.
Yeah. So it's had this waterish taste. It's not so strong. It's not, you know what I mean? In German opinion. And then he told me, and he gave me like 20 American beers to try, and then he told me the Americans are much more creative when it comes to beer, because every city there has like 2 or 3 breweries, and they are all doing their local beer, and they are experimenting a lot with hops, and that what comes to that different taste in beer. And yeah, and then I came to this whole craft beer kind of style, and I love this. And I'm such a big fan of those small breweries who do their own thing, and then
I do events with a beer hall here in Seattle. So they got beers from all over, but my favorite top one of all time, I believe, and please forgive me if I don't say it correctly, is the Westempfaner Heffenweisen. It's the original. What I've been told, it's the original recipe.
Weihenstephaner. Yeah, Hefenweisen. Yeah. That's a big one. I really love it. It's especially when you do sports or skiing, snowboarding. It's kind of, you want this Hefeweizen. But I'm also a fan of the strong, really tasty, almost bitter beers. And there I loved a lot of the American beers he gave me from the small breweries. What all crazy stuff, and everything tastes completely different. So if he there you can compare. Like if I gave you from 3 other brands or 4 other brands a Hefeweizen, then it will be really difficult to get the difference.
Now
they're all good, but you know, it's not that different.
And going back into a little bit more towards the technological side of things, have you experimented or looked at anything in virtual reality or what's coming up with augmented reality? And will you be looking into that as somewhere to go and possibly perform in the near future?
I watched a lot of stuff that artists are now attending, this whole metaverse thing. And I think it's really interesting. I don't have plans to do it right now, but I'm really open to that kind of stuff, because I think it's something like the future.
We just launched 2 nightclubs in alt space and have been really applauded by the community there that it's a really, really awesome space. It's an awesome build, and we're super excited to start getting our events and everything going up in there. And you can watch it in a 2D environment on a computer, but it's nothing like putting on the headset and going into this virtual nightclub, which is just huge. I mean, from a perspective, like you walk into a venue, like this place is huge. Like, oh my gosh, and there's rooms over here and there's rooms over here. And I love giving people tours of it and explaining how everything's going to go, because I see it kind of being the next website. The next, what are you going to develop to have somebody come back and look at your brand and keep coming back, and then being able to, obviously, I could be on a website and you're on a website. There might be a chat room we could chat in, but actually kind of interact with your avatar and say, hey, let's go over to this corner and chat, or hey, come up to my office and come chat with me, and we can kind of sit down and have conversations with each other and do some awesome stuff. And there's some really awesome builds in that are coming out, and I think it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. Bigger. It's
awesome. I think that's a really big part of the future.
Awesome.
I think, also the whole COVID thing made people think about those kind of solutions. Because here in Europe the lockdowns were a lot longer than you had in the US, and people are now. Some people, I'm not, but some people are scared to go out and go meet other people. And I think that where all these digital solutions come up and will speed up the whole process.
Apps. Well, what we saw happen in the live streaming world and podcast world. I mean, podcasts like doubled, almost tripled in people doing online shows. Online streaming, everybody went to it. I mean, that was just a crazy boom. I took like a 6-8 month step back because I said, oh, here's that wave I've been waiting for. And now everyone's doing it. It wasn't just like, the normal, and then there was a normal curve that built up. It was like everyone jumped on. I'm like, I'm going to bow out for a few seconds, make sure I got every I dotted and T crossed and all my ducks in a row, because I know where this is going. And I was expecting to have maybe a couple years to play with it, but and then we're like, okay, now it's turn for us to throw our hat in the ring, or let's get back to business. And just like a few weeks ago, we took number 2 on Twitch Music.
Wow.
It's like, all right, cool, I'll take it. Our machine is so well oiled that I can kind of press a button now and make sure that with my marketing and PR and that team I was telling you about earlier, that the word gets out and we get the viewership. Of course, we tell everyone to go back and watch it on our website so that we control that experience, which people are still starting to, I think they're going to start learning to, branding and making sure you have your merch store or your tracks available for purchase, or even your event calendar on your website, up there, and not just directing people to maybe a Facebook page or something. Will help them out in the long run. And speaking of the long run, success doesn't always last forever for everyone in the entertainment industry. What do you do? What do you do to save up for the future, or invest your earnings in to kind of plan for that?
I do a lot of things, to be honest. I own a few companies, and because I'm really good on the business kind of side, and I since I was a small child, I always try to. I was never fully employed anywhere, I have some companies, and I have some good friends where I do a lot of business with, and we always can come up with new ideas, and then we found new startups and kind of that. And as a musician, it's always a thing to just produce. You can produce other artists. You can just make music for other artists. That's really common. So,
I've always had the entrepreneurial knack since I was a child. I think my first venture was trying to start a magazine when I was like 6. Mm-hmm. And then I think we did the lemonade stand. Probably after that, probably was a little bit more profitable since we didn't have a distribution node in place for the magazine. But always had been leaning towards that entrepreneurial kind of thing, and found that over the years, working for companies was not my strongest suit. They just didn't move as fast as I wanted them to move when I worked for them. Or
that's a big thing for creative people.
Yeah. Or the range
they're
of
not
creative
good as employees, and and it's better to do your own thing, but you have to get comfortable with it, because it's not easy to own a company and make that everything works. And
absolutely.
We also do own festivals and that kind of stuff.
That'd be awesome. You do festivals and stuff?
Yeah, with a friend.
There you go. In Germany, or do you do it around
Germany? And Mm-hmm.
Anything coming up? Anything on the plans for this year?
We this year we do 2 or 3 smaller ones, because I support a friend doing a big one with like 10,000 people or something like that. But we thought that this year it's too early to do it, because it's still a little bit weird with all that COVID kind of stuff. And we will do some 2,000, 3,000 festivals with, I think, 2 or 3 this year.
That sounds awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to running into you at ADE. We'll have to sit down and talk there. We'll probably talk before then. But I'm super excited to see everything you have coming out, Cuebrick. And thank you so much for coming on the series today. Is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know about before we let you get back to work over there?
I think we talked a lot, so nothing more to say.
Awesome. And where can people find out more information about you and what you got going on?
On Instagram, of course, you find me with Cuebrick as a CUEBRICK _ DJ, but I think you only have to type in 2 or 3 letters, and then you'll find me. On Facebook, you can search Cuebrick. On Spotify, of course, Cuebrick, Apple Music, everywhere.
Awesome. And definitely go out and listen to those tracks. And what's going on?
100%. Listen to
those tracks. Buy those tracks.
Yeah.
Awesome, Cuebrick. Thank you so much for coming on the DJ sessions. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks a lot for having me. Well, it was great fun speaking to you.
Absolutely. And on that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on Facebook. Find us on Twitter. Find us on Instagram. Find us on TikTok. Watch my cooking videos because there's going to be some other ones coming through there. But there's some funny stuff there on TikTok. This is Darren and Cuebrick he's coming in all the way from Mannheim, Germany. I'm coming in from Seattle, Washington for the DJ Sessions, presents the virtual sessions. And remember, on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.